My daughter said the best birthday gift would be if I moved to a nursing home. So I smiled, walked out of my own house, and never looked back. But she didn't know what she'd just set in motion. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you are listening in the comments. She didn't know that the woman who raised her wasn't finished. And while she thought I'd fade away quietly into some sterile facility, I was planning something else. Something she'd feel every time she tried to come home. This is how I made her regret the day she ever underestimated her mother. I raised Linda with hands that never stopped working and a heart that never stopped giving. After her father Robert died 5 years ago, she was the center of my world, her and my son David, but especially Linda. She was my firstborn, my mirror, my hope for the future. I scrubbed her scraped knees and stayed up all night when she had fever. I worked double shifts at the diner to pay for her college when the scholarships fell short. I emptied my savings account to help with her wedding, then watched her honeymoon photos from the trip I'd paid for but wasn't invited on. And I never once asked for thanks. I just thought love would come back around when it mattered. When I turned 70 that Tuesday evening, I didn't think much of the celebration. Linda had insisted on hosting it at my house. My house, the one I'd been paying the mortgage on for 43 years, the one where she'd been staying temporarily for the past 8 months since her divorce. The dining room was full of faces I'd fed 1,000 times. David and his wife Sarah, their daughter Emma, and Linda, of course. Always Linda, sitting at the head of my table like she belonged there more than I did. I'd baked my own birthday cake that morning, chocolate with vanilla frosting, the same recipe I'd been making for family birthdays since Linda was 5. Nobody offered to help. Nobody thought it was strange that a 70-year-old woman was baking her own birthday cake while her adult children sat in her living room scrolling through their phones. "Make a wish, Mom," David said, lighting the candles he'd bought at the gas station on his way over. 70 candles crowded onto a cake meant for maybe 20, wax already dripping onto the frosting. I closed my eyes and wished for what I'd been wishing for quietly for years, to matter. To be seen as more than the woman who kept everyone's world spinning while staying invisible herself. When I opened my eyes and blew out the candles, Linda was watching me with that look. The one that said she was about to fix my life whether I wanted her to or not. "Actually, Mom," she said, her voice cutting through the polite applause, "I know what would make the perfect birthday gift." The room went quiet. Even 8-year-old Emma stopped fidgeting. Linda leaned back in her chair, my chair, at my table, and smiled that practiced smile she used when she was about to deliver bad news like it was good medicine. The best gift you could give yourself would be to finally move into one of those nice nursing homes. You know, where you'd have people your own age to talk to, activities planned for you, someone to take care of you properly. The words hit me like cold water. I felt something crack inside my chest, but I kept my face perfectly still. 43 years of marriage to a man who never raised his voice had taught me how to absorb impact without showing it. "You know, think about it, Mom," Linda continued, warming to her theme. "This house is way too much for you. All these stairs, the yard work, the maintenance. And you're here all alone, day after day. It's not safe. It's not appropriate for someone your age. Someone your age. Like 70 was a disease instead of an achievement." I looked around the table at my family. Sarah was nodding along like Linda was making perfect sense. David looked uncomfortable but wasn't disagreeing. Emma was confused, sensing the tension but not understanding why Grandma's birthday had turned into a business meeting about her future. "I could move in permanently and help you maintain the house," Linda pressed on, gesturing around the dining room like she was doing me a favor. "You know, handle all the big decisions, take care of the finances, make sure everything gets done properly. It would be such a relief for everyone, especially you." Everyone. Not me. I wasn't part of everyone. I sat there feeling the familiar weight of expectation. The expectation to be understanding, to be grateful for their concern, to smile and make this easy for them. After all, isn't that what good mothers do? They sacrifice everything and then disappear quietly when they are no longer needed. But something was different this time. Maybe it was the fact that she'd chosen my birthday to deliver this news. Maybe it was the casual way she'd claimed ownership of my house, my life, my future. Maybe it was the realization that the daughter I'd given everything to saw me as nothing more than an inconvenience to be managed. "You'd love it, Mom," Linda said, mistaking my silence for consideration. "No more worrying about anything. Just peace and quiet. Peace and quiet. The kind you get in a grave." I felt my lips curve into the smile I'd perfected over 7 decades. The one that said everything was fine, that I understood, that I wouldn't make waves. "You know what, sweetheart?" I said, my voice calm as still water. "You're absolutely right." Relief flooded Linda's face like she'd just solved a complicated math problem. "Really? You'll consider it?" I stood up slowly, my hand resting on the back of the chair where I'd sat for thousands of family dinners. The chair where I'd helped with homework and listened to problems and celebrated victories and held this family together through every crisis and joy. "Oh, I'll do more than consider it," I said, walking to the hallway where my purse hung on its hook. The same hook where it had hung every single day for 43 years. "Where are you going?" Linda asked, and for the first time tonight, there was uncertainty in her voice. I turned back to look at them one last time, my children, my son-in-law, my granddaughter, all sitting in the house I'd made into a home, around the table where I'd served them thousands of meals, surrounded by the life I'd built with my own 2 hands. "I'm granting your birthday wish," I said simply. "You want me gone? Consider it done." And then I walked out of my own house, leaving behind 70 years of birthdays and 43 years of memories and the last of my illusions about unconditional love. The door closed behind me with a soft click. For the first time in my adult life, I had nowhere to go and no one expecting me home. But I wasn't confused. I wasn't finished. And while they thought I'd fade away quietly, I was already planning something else. I drove to the Hampton Inn on Route 9 because it was the first place I could think of that wasn't my house. The desk clerk, a young man with kind eyes, didn't ask questions when I paid cash for a week up front. Maybe he saw something in my face that warned him off small talk. The room was beige and anonymous and exactly what I needed. No family photos staring at me from the walls. No memories lurking in every corner. Just clean sheets, a working coffee maker, and blessed, merciful silence. I sat on the edge of the bed and let myself feel it, the full weight of what had just happened. My daughter, the baby I'd nursed through colic and nightmares, had just told me I was too old to run my own life. Worse, she'd packaged it like concern while positioning herself to take over everything I'd worked for. Handle the big decisions. Take care of the finances. Translation: I'd become a tenant in my own home while she played house with my life. But here's what Linda didn't know about her mother. I wasn't the helpless old woman she thought she was managing. I was the same woman who'd balanced checkbooks and negotiated mortgage rates and kept a household running on fumes and determination for 43 years. The woman who'd buried a husband and kept going. The woman who'd raised 2 children as a single mother after their father died and never once let them see me break. I pulled out my phone and started making a list in my notes app. Not a grocery list or a honey-do list like I'd been making for decades. This was different. This was a battle plan. First item: call Margaret Chen, my real estate agent. Margaret had sold me this house back in 1981 when Robert and I were young and foolish enough to think 30-year mortgages were forever. She'd handled the refinancing when Linda needed college money, and she'd been the one to tell me what the house was worth when I'd been curious 2 years ago. $340,000. In today's market, probably more. Second item: gather my documents. All of them. The deed, the insurance papers, the will I'd updated after Robert died. Everything Linda assumed she already had access to. Everything she thought she understood. Third item: the letter. I needed to write her a letter that would make everything crystal clear. I opened my laptop, the one David had given me for Christmas 3 years ago, insisting I needed to stay connected. Ironic, considering how disconnected I felt from all of them right now. But it would serve my purposes perfectly. I started typing, my fingers finding their rhythm like they had when I'd written thank you notes and grocery lists and all the invisible correspondence that keeps a family's world spinning. Dear Linda, you asked for the best birthday gift, and I've decided to give it to you. You want me out of your way so you can take over my house and my life. You've got it. But not the way you planned. I stopped typing and stared at the screen. Was I really doing this? Was I really about to blow up 42 years of motherhood over one terrible conversation? But then I remembered the look on her face when she'd talked about handling the big decisions. The casual way she'd claimed ownership of my home while I sat right there. The complete absence of any question about what I wanted, what I needed, what I might have planned for my own future. I kept typing. You see, sweetheart, there's something you never learned about me. I'm not the fragile old woman you think you're managing. I'm the woman who kept this family together through every crisis, who made every dollar stretch, who planned and saved and sacrificed so you could have the life you wanted. And I'm the woman whose name is on the deed to the house you just tried to claim. My fingers paused over the keyboard. Through the hotel window, I could see cars passing on the highway, people going about their ordinary Tuesday night lives. None of them knew that someone's world had just shifted on its axis. I saved the document and closed the laptop. The letter could wait until tomorrow. First, I needed to make some phone calls. Margaret Chen answered on the third ring, sounding surprisingly alert for 9:30 at night. Eleanor, is everything all right? I need to sell the house, Margaret. Fast. A pause. Your house. The Colonial on Maple Street. That's the one. How quickly can we make it happen? Well, that depends on a lot of factors. The market's hot right now, but, Eleanor, is something wrong? This seems sudden. I smiled, and for the first time since I'd blown out those 70 candles, it felt real. Nothing's wrong, Margaret. Everything's finally right. How soon can you come by for the listing? I could be there tomorrow afternoon if you're serious about this. Dead serious. And Margaret, I need this to close fast. Whatever it takes. After I hung up, I sat back against the hotel pillows and felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Control. For the first time since Robert died, I was making decisions about my own life instead of just reacting to everyone else's plans for me. Linda wanted to manage me like I was a problem to be solved. She wanted to move into my house permanently and handle my finances and make my decisions. She had no idea that the woman she was trying to manage had just decided to disappear. But not quietly. And not without consequences. I woke up Wednesday morning with the kind of clarity I hadn't felt in years. No fog, no confusion, no wondering what I was supposed to be doing with my day. I had a mission. First stop, the house. My house. The one Linda thought she was moving into permanently. I parked across the street and watched through my windshield as Linda left for work at 8:15. Same as always. She drove my late husband's Honda, the car I'd been letting her use since her divorce, the car she now treated like it was hers. She didn't even glance back at the house as she pulled away, already taking ownership in her mind. If she'd looked, she might have seen her mother sitting in a rental car, wearing the navy blue suit she'd bought for Robert's funeral 5 years ago. The suit that meant business. I waited until she was completely out of sight, then let myself in through the front door with the key I'd carried for 43 years. The house felt different somehow, like it was already saying goodbye. The dining room still smelled like birthday cake. Linda had left the plates on the table, apparently expecting me to come back and clean up my own party. The candle wax had hardened into small puddles on my grandmother's lace tablecloth. I walked through each room methodically, gathering what I needed. The fireproof box from my bedroom closet contained everything. The original deed with my name and Robert's names on it, the life insurance papers, my will, the birth certificates, marriage certificate, Robert's death certificate. Every piece of paper that proved this was my life, my house, my decision to make. Linda's clothes were scattered across my bed like she'd already moved into the master bedroom. Her coffee mug sat on Robert's nightstand. She'd been living here 8 months, and somewhere along the way she'd stopped asking permission for anything. I gathered the mug, the clothes, the personal items she'd spread throughout my space, and placed them neatly in a laundry basket by the front door. If she was moving out anyway, she might as well take her things with her. By the time Margaret arrived at 2 o'clock, I had everything organized. The house was spotless, staged the way it had been when Robert and I first bought it, full of possibilities instead of regrets. Eleanor, Margaret said, looking around the living room with professional eyes, I have to ask. Are you sure about this? This is your home. Your memories. My memories will come with me, Margaret. The house is just wood and brick. She nodded, pulling out her tablet to start taking notes. The market's incredibly hot right now. Houses in this neighborhood are selling within days of listing, sometimes with multiple offers. But Eleanor, that also means. It means Linda won't have time to stop me. Margaret paused, her stylus hovering over the screen. I beg your pardon. Nothing. Just thinking out loud. How soon can we list it? If you're serious about a quick sale, I can have it listed tonight. Photos this afternoon, virtual tour uploaded by evening. But Eleanor, if you price it right, we could have offers by Friday. Price it to sell, Margaret. I don't need to squeeze every penny out of it. I need it gone. She quoted me a number that made my breath catch. Even pricing it to move quickly, the house was worth nearly $400,000. $400,000 that Linda had been counting on inheriting someday. $400,000 she'd assumed was already partially hers. After Margaret left to prepare the listing, I sat down at my kitchen table, The same table where I'd paid bills and planned meals and helped with homework for decades, and opened my laptop to finish the letter. Dear Linda, you asked for the best birthday gift, and I've decided to give it to you. You want me out of your way so you can take over my house and my life. You've got it, but not the way you planned. You see, sweetheart, there's something you never learned about me. I'm not the fragile old woman you think you're managing. I'm the woman who kept this family together through every crisis, who made every dollar stretch, who planned and saved and sacrificed so you could have the life you wanted. And I'm the woman whose name is on the deed to the house you just tried to claim. By the time you read this, the house will be sold. Your plan to move in permanently and handle the big decisions has been handled for you. I've made the biggest decision of all. You wanted me gone from your life so you could take over mine. Congratulations. You got exactly what you asked for. Don't try to find me. I'll be living somewhere appropriate for someone my age, just like you suggested. Somewhere you don't have to worry about me being a burden. I hope you find the peace and quiet you were looking for. Mum. I printed the letter on my good stationery, the cream-colored paper with my initials embossed at the top. The same stationery I'd used to write thank you notes and sympathy cards and all the polite correspondence that had marked my life as a proper lady. This would be the last letter I ever wrote on that stationery. I sealed it in a matching envelope and wrote Linda on the front in my careful cursive. Then I placed it on the kitchen counter, right where she always dropped her keys when she came home from work. Margaret called at 6:30. Eleanor, you're not going to believe this. We've got 3 showings scheduled for tomorrow and 2 for Friday. And I've already had 2 agents call asking if their clients can submit offers sight unseen. How long until closing if we accept an offer this week? With a cash buyer. 2 weeks, maybe 3. Perfect. Linda would have just enough time to get comfortable, to start making plans, to really believe she was in control. Then the rug would be pulled out from under her. I spent that evening in the hotel room, researching retirement communities online. Not because I wanted to live in one, but because I wanted to know what options existed. I found a beautiful place in Vermont, near the mountains, with independent living cottages and a month-to-month rental option. The kind of place where a woman could disappear for a while and figure out what came next. The kind of place where Linda would never think to look for the mother she'd so casually discarded. Thursday morning brought the first showing at 9 a.m. sharp. I positioned myself at the coffee shop across the street, watching through the window as a young couple walked through my front door with their agent. They stayed 4 to 5 minutes and left looking excited, talking animatedly on the sidewalk. The second showing was at noon. Another couple, this one older, with a teenage daughter who was probably looking at her future bedroom. They took their time, walking the property line, examining the roof, checking the foundation. Serious buyers. I found myself gripping my coffee cup as I watched strangers evaluate the life I'd built. But instead of sadness, I felt something unexpected, anticipation. Each person who walked through that door was another nail in Linda's coffin of assumptions. My phone buzzed with a text from Margaret, 2 offers already. Both above asking. 1 cash, closing in 10 days. 10 days. Linda had 10 days left of believing she was inheriting a house. I spent the afternoon at the bank, moving money around, setting up accounts Linda didn't know existed. 4 to 3 years of marriage to a man who believed in financial planning had taught me a thing or two about protecting assets. Everything that was solely in my name stayed in my name. Everything else got transferred to accounts Linda couldn't touch. By evening, I was back at the hotel, watching the local news and eating takeout Chinese food from plastic containers. Such an ordinary thing, eating alone in a hotel room, but it felt revolutionary. No one asking what was for dinner. No one expecting me to clean up after them. No one planning my life without consulting me. My phone rang at 8:30. David. Mum. Linda said you walked out of your birthday party and nobody's heard from you. Are you okay? I almost laughed. Now they were concerned about my well-being. After I'd disappeared for 48 hours. I'm fine, sweetheart. Better than I've been in years. Where are you? Linda's worried sick. She drove around looking for you last night. I'm sure she is worried. Did she mention what we talked about at dinner? A pause. She said you guys discussed some housing options. Mom, if you're upset about that. I'm not upset, David. I'm taking action. Tell Linda she got exactly what she asked for. What does that mean? Mom, you're scaring me. I'm not trying to scare anyone. I'm just done being managed like I'm incompetent. I'm done being treated like a burden that needs to be solved. Nobody thinks you're a burden. Don't, David. Just don't. You sat at that table and listened to your sister plan my life without asking what I wanted. You didn't say a word when she decided I was too old to live in my own house. Silence on the other end. Tell Linda I'll be in touch when I'm ready. And David, next time you're worried about your mother's well-being, maybe ask me about it before I have to disappear to get your attention. I hung up before he could respond. Friday brought 3 more showings and 2 more offers. Margaret called, barely containing her excitement. Eleanor, this is unprecedented. We've got 5 offers, all above asking price. The highest is from a cash buyer offering $420, no contingencies, 10-day close. They're a young family with twins. They fell in love with the house. $420,000. For the house Linda thought she was moving into permanently. Take it, I said. Are you sure? I think if we wait. Take it, Margaret. Today. Eleanor, that means you need to be out by next Friday. That's 7 days. Perfect timing. After I hung up, I sat on the hotel bed and let the magnitude of what I'd just done wash over me. In 5 days, I'd gone from being dismissed at my own birthday party to selling my house out from under the daughter who thought she could manage my life. But I wasn't finished yet. I opened my laptop and booked a flight to Burlington, Vermont. One way. Leaving Sunday morning, 2 days before Linda would come home to find strangers moving into what she thought was her house. Then I called the retirement community I'd researched, the one with the independent living cottages in the mountains. Maple Haven, this is Susan speaking. Hello, Susan. I'm looking for a short-term rental, maybe 3 to 6 months while I figure out my next step. Do you have any cottages available? As a matter of fact, we do. When were you thinking of moving in? Monday. Susan didn't even pause. We can make that work. Let me send you the paperwork. Everything was falling into place with the kind of precision that only comes when you stop asking permission and start making decisions. I spent Friday evening writing 2 more letters. One to David, explaining why I'd done what I'd done, telling him I loved him but needed time away from all of them to figure out who I was when I wasn't taking care of everyone else. The other letter was for Linda's pillow. A short note that she'd find Sunday night when she went to bed in what she thought was her new bedroom. The house sold today. The new owners move in Monday. You have the weekend to pack. This is what happens when you mistake kindness for weakness. Your belongings are in the laundry basket by the front door. Don't contact me. You wanted me gone, and now I am. Forever. Mum. Saturday passed like the calm before a hurricane. I spent the day packing the few belongings I wanted to keep. Photo albums, Robert's watch, my mother's jewelry, a handful of books that had gotten me through the hardest times. Everything else could stay with the house or be donated. After 70 years of accumulating things, I discovered how little I actually needed. I drove past the house one last time Saturday evening. Linda's car was in the driveway, and I could see lights on in every room. She was probably making herself comfortable in the master bedroom, maybe even rearranging furniture to suit her taste. Planning her permanent residence in the house that would no longer be hers in 48 hours. Sunday morning, I caught my flight to Burlington. As the plane lifted off, I looked down at the city I'd called home for 7 decades and felt nothing but relief. No sadness, no regret, no looking back. Just the weightless sensation of a woman who'd finally cut herself free. By Sunday evening, I was settled in Cottage 12 at Maple Haven, surrounded by mountains and silence and the kind of peace Linda had claimed I needed. She'd been right about one thing. I did need peace. Just not the kind she'd been planning to give me. I turned off my phone and went to bed early, knowing that 500 miles away, Linda was about to find my note on her pillow. Monday morning arrived gray and drizzling, the kind of weather that makes everything feel heavy and ominous. I was having coffee on my cottage porch when my phone started buzzing with missed calls. 7 from Linda, 3 from David, 2 from Sarah, even 1 from Linda's ex-husband Mark. I let them all go to voicemail. The first voicemail was Linda, and her voice was shaking. Mom, what is this note? What do you mean the house sold? Call me back. Now. The second was David. Mom, Linda's hysterical. She's saying you sold the house? That can't be right. Please call me. By the 4th voicemail, Linda's voice had changed from confusion to panic. Mom, there are people here with boxes. They are saying they bought the house. They have keys. They have papers. What did you do? What did you do? I poured myself another cup of coffee and watched a cardinal land on the porch railing. Such a beautiful bird, so red against the grey morning. I'd always loved cardinals. The 5th voicemail was Linda sobbing. Mom, please, I don't understand. Where am I supposed to go? All my stuff is in garbage bags on the front lawn. The new owners, they are nice but they want me out today. Please call me back. Please. I deleted that one without finishing it. Margaret called around noon, her voice carefully professional. Eleanor, I wanted to confirm that the closing went smoothly this morning. The new owners are lovely people, very excited about the house. Your check will be deposited as we discussed. However, I should mention that a young woman showed up claiming to be your daughter. She was quite upset. Security had to escort her off the property. Thank you for handling that, Margaret. Eleanor, are you sure you're all right? She seemed to think she lived there. She was mistaken. The house was never hers. That evening, I finally listened to all the voicemails. 23 in total, a symphony of panic and disbelief and, finally, rage. Linda's final message, left at 6:47 p.m., was different from all the others. Her voice was hoarse from crying, but there was something else in it now. Understanding, maybe. Or defeat. Mom, I get it now. I get what I did to you. I'm sitting in a hotel room just like you probably were, and I understand. I took everything from you, didn't I? Your home, your dignity, your choice. I treated you like you were already gone while you were sitting right there. A long pause, the sound of her breathing. I don't know where you are. I don't know if you'll ever forgive me. But I need you to know that I finally see what you were trying to show me. I see the woman I became, the daughter I became, and I'm ashamed. Another pause. I lost my home today, Mom. But you lost yours because of me. And that's so much worse. The message ended with the sound of her crying, a broken, hopeless sound that might have moved me a week ago. But that was before she'd tried to manage my life like I was incompetent. Before she'd claimed ownership of my home while I sat at my own birthday table. Before she'd made it clear that my value to her was measured in how little trouble I caused. I deleted the voicemail and turned off my phone again. Tuesday morning brought fresh snow to the mountains, and I took a long walk on the nature trail behind my cottage. The air was crisp and clean, and for the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe fully. When I got back, there was a woman waiting on my porch. 70-ish, silver hair, kind eyes, wearing a wool coat that had seen better days. You must be Eleanor, she said. I'm Ruth, from Cottage 8. Susan mentioned you might like some company. That's very kind, but I'm not really looking for company, Ruth finished. I know. I said the same thing when I first arrived here 3 years ago. I was running away from my own family disaster. But loneliness gets old after a while, and sometimes it helps to talk to someone who understands. I studied her face, seeing something familiar in her expression. The look of a woman who'd reached her limit and walked away. What was your family disaster? I asked. Ruth smiled, a rueful expression that held years of hard-won wisdom. My son and daughter-in-law tried to have me declared incompetent so they could take control of my finances. Apparently, being 73 made me too senile to manage my own money. Were you senile? Hell no. I was just trusting. Big mistake. I invited her in for coffee, and for the first time since my birthday, I found myself wanting to talk to someone. Really talk, not just exchange pleasantries or manage other people's feelings. How did it end? I asked as we sat at my kitchen table. Ruth's smile turned sharp. Let's just say they learned the hard way that underestimating your mother is an expensive mistake. For the first time in a week, I laughed. Really laughed, deep and genuine and free. Maybe I wasn't the only woman who'd decided to stop being managed. 3 months passed in Vermont like a slow exhale. I learned to cross-country ski from a 78-year-old former Olympic coach named Betty. I took pottery classes and discovered I had decent hands for shaping clay. I read books I'd been meaning to read for years, watched movies I'd never had time for, and took naps whenever I felt like it. Ruth became my closest friend, something I hadn't had since Robert died. We took walks every morning, shared dinner twice a week, and told each other stories we'd never told our own families. Stories about dreams we'd put aside, sacrifices that had gone unnoticed, moments when we'd felt invisible in our own lives. She'd been right about loneliness getting old. But she'd also been right about the freedom that came after you stopped trying to earn love that should have been freely given. The phone calls from my family had stopped after the first month. David had tried the longest, leaving increasingly frustrated messages about how I was punishing everyone and being unfair. Sarah had sent a few texts about Emma missing her grandmother. Even Linda's ex-husband Mark had called once, trying to play peacemaker. But Linda herself had gone quiet after that final voicemail. Maybe she'd finally understood that some bridges, once burned, can't be rebuilt. I found out through Margaret that Linda had moved back in with her ex-husband temporarily. Just until she gets back on her feet, Margaret had said carefully. The divorce wasn't as final as she'd made it seem, apparently. I felt nothing when I heard that. Not satisfaction, not sadness, not vindication. Just the neutral acknowledgement of information that no longer affected my life. It was a Tuesday in April when I made my decision. The snow was melting, creating little streams that ran down the mountainside like tears of joy. Spring was coming to Vermont, and I was ready for whatever came next. I called Susan at the front office. "I'd like to extend my lease on Cottage 12 indefinitely," I said. "Indefinitely?" "I'm not leaving, Susan. This is home now." "Oh, Eleanor, that's wonderful. We all hoped you'd stay. You've brought such life to this place." Life. I'd brought life to a place, instead of feeling like life was slowly draining out of me. When had I last felt that way in my old house, surrounded by people who took my presence for granted? That evening, I called David. It was time. "Mom." His voice was guarded, uncertain. "Hello, sweetheart. Where are you? Are you okay?" "I'm better than okay. I'm happy." A long pause. "Linda's been. She's not doing well, Mom. The divorce, losing the house. She's been staying with Mark, but it's complicated. She keeps asking about you." "I'm sure she does. Don't you care?" I considered the question seriously. I care that she's learning what it feels like to have your life upended by someone else's decisions. I care that she's discovering what it's like to lose your home and have nowhere to go. Those are important lessons. She's your daughter. Yes, she is. And I raised her to be better than the woman who tried to manage her mother's life like she was incompetent. I raised her to be kinder, more thoughtful, more grateful. If she's not those things, then maybe some hard lessons are exactly what she needs. "When are you coming back?" "I'm not, David. I'm staying in Vermont. I've found a community here, friends, a life that doesn't revolve around taking care of people who don't appreciate it. You can't just abandon your family." I didn't abandon anyone. I gave Linda exactly what she asked for, a life without her burden of a mother in it. She should be grateful. "That's not fair." "Fair?" I laughed, but there was no bitterness in it anymore. "David, I spent 70 years being fair. I was fair when I worked double shifts to pay for Linda's college. Fair when I emptied my savings for her wedding. Fair when I let her move back home and take over my bedroom and my life. Fair when I sat quietly at my own birthday dinner while she planned my future without asking what I wanted. Mom, I'm done being fair, sweetheart. I'm done being manageable. I'm done being the woman who makes everything easy for everyone else while making myself smaller and smaller until I disappear." "So you just left us?" I left the version of myself that was slowly dying in that house. The woman who lived for everyone else's approval and got none of her own choices. That woman is gone, David. The woman talking to you now is someone new. Someone who matters. There was a long silence. "Can we visit you?" he asked finally. "Not Linda. Not until she understands what she did and why it was unforgivable. And if she never does, then she'll have learned the most expensive lesson of her life. That you can't treat people like they are disposable and expect them to stick around for more." "What about Emma? She misses you." That one hit harder than the rest. My granddaughter, innocent in all this, caught up in the consequences of her aunt's cruelty. "You can bring Emma anytime. But David, if you do, you need to understand something. I'm not the same grandmother she knew. I'm not the woman who drops everything to babysit or who puts everyone else's needs first. I'm someone who has learned to put herself first for the first time in her life. If you can accept that, you're welcome here." "And Linda?" I looked out my cottage window at the mountains, still capped with snow even as spring crept up their slopes. Beautiful, enduring, unmovable. Linda made her choice at my birthday dinner. She chose to see me as a problem instead of a person. She chose to try to manage my life instead of respecting my choices. She chose to claim ownership of my home while making me feel like a guest in my own life. I paused, feeling the weight of what I was about to say. She chose to treat me like I was already dead. So I disappeared. And now she gets to live with the consequences of that choice for the rest of her life, just like I had to live with feeling invisible for years. That seems harsh. It seems appropriate. After I hung up, I sat on my porch in the gathering dusk, wrapped in the quilt Ruth had made me for Christmas. Somewhere in the distance, an owl called to its mate, and somewhere else, another owl called back. I thought about Linda, probably lying awake in Mark's guest room, wondering how everything had gone so wrong so fast. Maybe finally understanding what it felt like to be powerless in your own life. I thought about the house on Maple Street, where a young family with twins was probably getting ready for bedtime, making memories in rooms that had held 70 years of my life. I hoped they would be happier there than I had been at the end. Mostly, I thought about Ruth's words from that first day. Sometimes it helps to talk to someone who understands. She'd been right about that too. We'd both been underestimated by people who should have known better. We'd both learned that love without respect isn't love at all. It's just convenience disguised as caring. And we'd both discovered that the most radical thing a woman can do is refuse to be managed by people who've forgotten she has a choice. The owl called again, and I smiled in the darkness. Tomorrow, Betty was teaching me to make pottery bowls. Ruth and I were planning a garden behind Cottage 8. The book club was reading Jane Eyre next month. I had a life to live, and for the first time in decades, it belonged entirely to me. Linda had been right about one thing at my birthday dinner. I did need peace and quiet. I just found it in a place she'd never think to look, in a life where I mattered. If you like this story, please subscribe to the channel and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.